inspire entrepreneurs to rise, innovate, and create lasting impact. And today I have my special guest. If you don't care about your people, why should they care about you or your customers? For sure. None other than Mr. Ben Baker.
How are you, Daniel?
I'm fabulous. Excellent, Mr. Ben. And can you please introduce more about yourself that I missed?
Sure. I've been in the communications game for close to 30 years now. What I do is people bring me in when things are bent, broken, or bedlam. When things are not going right, either with communications, customer experience, or stakeholder relations. I work with mid to large size B2B organizations. And what we do is we drive change, create impact, and align teams.
Interesting, Mr. Ben. And thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and wisdom to the world. And today, let's talk about customer experience. The product versus the feeling. When a customer buys from you, they are buying the physical product or the service. But what are they actually purchasing? What emotional or psychological need is the transaction really satisfying?
Yeah, it's interesting because you're right. The question is, are we looking for transactional business or are we looking for ongoing customers? If we're looking for transactional business, price matters. That's just it. We're looking to sell somebody something once. We're never going to see them again. We're not looking for referrals. We're not looking for them to elevate our brand. We're just looking to make a commodity sale because we know that all we're trying to do is churn and burn and keep the engine going. The problem with that is you're always having to keep the engine going. You're constantly marketing out there. You're constantly, communicating. Your customer acquisition costs go through the roof because no one is talking about you. Nobody is recommending you. Nobody is excited about what you do, and nobody sees you as differentiated between you and your competition. When you sell an experience, you are tying people to the brand. You are giving them to reasons to say, hey, this is the company I want to work with. I trust these people. I know their product. I know that it solves the problem that I have. And I know that if I recommend them, the people that I recommend it to are not going to be dissatisfied. That is where the difference of a great customer experience adds value to your business.
Well, very well said, Mr. Ben. Very well said indeed. In categories where products are virtually identical, like utilities, airlines, or banking, experience is the only differentiator. But in categories where the product is superior, is the medical experience a pardonable sin?
Well, here's the thing. Is there any place out there truly that could say that I have a product or service that is so superior, that is so differentiated, that is so unique that I can charge whatever I want? And the question is maybe, maybe not. Versace, Gucci, Dolce Gabbana, each one of them has a very differentiated, very unique, very high end product. Ferrari, Lamborghini, all of these products are differentiated, but each one of them creates an experience for their customers. Each one of them knows that even in a high end market, they are competing against people in their marketplace that are as high end, as differentiated, as unique as they are. And they are trying to create that experience that ties people to the brand. There are people out there that will only buy Versace. If they're buying clothes, Versace is the only clothes that they want because they are aligned with the brand. They love how the brand makes them feel. They make how the brand makes them look. They know that people talk about the new Versace clothes. They're a very differentiated brand. They're a very unique brand, but they realize They're not the only one out there. Everybody needs to create a customer experience to be able to tie themselves to their customer base.
Well, that amazing, interesting facts. Mr. Ben, we measure repeat purchase and call it loyalty. But true loyalty is refusal to defect even when a cheaper or easier options appears. How many of your repeat customers actually love you and how many are just inert?
I think that everybody has transactional clients. When I started off in sales 30 plus years ago, working for Xerox, my customers were my bosses told me that you're never in a customer until you're in three different departments at three different levels. Until you have at least nine people at any organization that know you, like you, trust you, value you, and come to you to solve their problems, you're not really truly engaged in a customer, and you are a commodity at some way, shape, or form. You have true competition, your business can be taken away, you don't have absolute differentiation. So we're constantly having to work on this. It's not something that you have differentiation, you have product loyalty, you have a unique customer experience, and it lasts forever. It's something that you're continually working on, and you're constantly going back to the same customers to say, okay, this is what I did for you before. How can I elevate that to make it different for you moving forward?
Let's talk about the PowerPoint customer, Mr. Van. The customer discussed in the boardroom is often an abstraction, a persona, a segment, or
Yes.
statistic. How removed is the fictional customer from the real, impatient, or irrational human being your frontline deals with 11 p.m. on a Tuesday?
And I think that's a real valid point. I think that C-suite in a lot of situations are disassociated and are not connected to their customer base because they don't talk to their customer. They speak about the customer in abstractions. They talk about the housewife or the millennial or the Gen Z. They talk about people of this income bracket. They talk about people that have this sense and sensibility. But what we realize is that human beings are far more complex than that, and that just because somebody buys something from you with some decision today doesn't mean that's going to be the same decision that they're going to use tomorrow. People change, people's moods change, people's needs change, people's hopes, wants, and fears change, and we need to be evolving with them, and we need to think of people not in the abstract but as human beings. And C-suites need to think in the abstract because when you're dealing with a million customers, 10 million customers, 100 million customers, etc., you can't think about the individual. And that's why you have people at the front line that can actually take those abstract ideas and turn them into relationships with the individuals. And AI and a lot of differentiating software allows us to speak on an individual level when we're marketing and when we're communicating, and that leads to our ability to be more in sync with our customers on an individual level. But it's a challenge. It's absolutely a challenge. And what we can do at the C suite is make best guesses that hopefully are educated by communication that's coming up the line saying, hey, listen, this is what we're seeing in the marketplace. It doesn't align with what our personas is. Maybe we need to start thinking about things differently. But the question is, do we have leadership that allows that communication move up the line and allow those ideas to filter through? Or do we have people that act as gatekeepers who are so worried about their jobs that they're unable or unwilling to allow great ideas to filter up to the C-suite?
Very
And
well
and
said.
conversely, do we have C-suite that are willing to go down to the customer level and actually spend some time talking to real customers to make sure that their assumptions are reality?
Very well said, Mr. Ban. Your frontline employees know exactly what is broken. They know which policies and which customers and which workarounds actually fix problems. Why do organizations systematically ignore the expertise to their own people?
I look at it as we call it the permafrost layer. And that's unfortunately is the permafrost layer of middle management. And that middle management, in a lot of cases, you know, doesn't allow information up and doesn't allow information down. And a lot of communication within organizations, because of the levels of hierarchy and because of the bureaucracy that is built up over years and decades within organizations, do not allow for free flow of information, and that leads to ineffective information and ineffective decision making at a macro level. And I think that organizations that actually take the time and take the pulse of the organization from a frontline point of view and actually let that information filter up and have um, SWAT teams that are part and parcel, that actually include frontline workers that are listened to and are advisory roles. Those organizations do better, but unfortunately, a lot of organizations get stuck in their own bureaucracy, and therefore, a lot of information does not filter where it needs to be,
Mr. Ben, let's talk
and that's
about
a
the
culture issue.
Indeed. So, Mr. Ben, let's talk about the invisible excellence. The best customer experience is often the one the customer does not notice at all. How do you motivate an
Mhm.
organizations to invest in improvements that, if done correctly, we go completely unnoticed?
I think Disney is probably the quintessential people for doing that. It's having a culture that believes in empowering and autonomy, and enables people to understand from a cultural point of view that your job as an individual cast member is to create special moments for people wherever and whenever possible. And if you enable and you empower frontline people to be able to create opportunities in the moment, those moments actually exist. And I think that a lot of those things happen where, for instance, somebody in a wheelchair gets wheeled to the front of a line, or somebody gets given a button, that gives them a smile on their face, or a character goes out of their way to have a little bit longer conversation with somebody, and signs not only with their name but with a special message. It's creating moments and creating opportunities for moments. And as we as organizations enable this, empower this, and train for this, we're able to create a customer experience that feels natural, feels in the moment, and does not feel contrived.
Mr. Ben, the peak and rule. Research suggests customers judge an experience not by the average of every moment, but by the peak and the ending. Are you over interesting in the mundane and under investing in the moments that actually shape memory?
I think that moments that shape memory are important. I truly believe that people remember what they remember, and what they remember is what's important to them. And where in that moment it occurs is going to be different for different people. And I agree with you that that moment is where that peak is for different people is going to be different. Um, and I think that we need to sit there and realize that when we're dealing with human beings, when we're creating experiences, when we're understanding, valuing, listening, and engaging with our customers, we're going to be able to understand what is going to be that person thing that's going to make that person go wow. And if we as an organization believe that it is our role and our privilege to create those wow moments will exist. And it's not a wow moment for us, it's a wow moment for the customer. and we need to be thinking about what's going to be something special for them. It's not what's the canned experience that we did for the last 12 people that's going to obviously be something that's going to be unique for this person. It's not doing the same thing over and over again. It's creating opportunities that make that customer move forward. There's a perfect example where, and I believe it is, oh, I'm trying to remember. It's one of the, I believe it's Sephora. Somebody's going to have to fact check me, but I believe it's Sephora. And what Sephora has done is create the opportunity for you to either go in, either grab a red basket or a black basket. And if you grab a black basket, they leave you alone. They don't ask you, they're not there to bother you. They just let you shop. If you grab a red basket, it means that you are looking for help. And it's giving the salespeople the opportunity. Says, okay, these people are looking for help. How can I be advisory, and how can I be consultative, and how can I make this person's shopping experience better, and be able to focus on those people and let the people with the black baskets just go out there and pick up what they need to pick up, go to the cashier, be rung in, and leave, because that's what they want. So it's enabling opportunities to wow a customer that I think is the best thing for organizations.
Best wow for sure. And what innovation! And I hope other companies will follow too. We're obsessed with reducing customer effort, but some effort creates investment, the IKEA effect, or the satisfaction of solving a problem. When should you actually increase the effort required of the customer?
I think you increase the effort based on the need of the customer. If a
Mm.
customer if you can see a level of frustration, if you can see a level of concern, if you can see a level of mistrust, and you can feel that, and you can hear it, and you can understand that based on body language or whatever the factor is, that's when you elevate your customer experience. Not every customer is looking for a unique experience in every single place. Some people just want to be served. Some people just want to smile. Some people just want you to say thank you. Some people just want to be, rung in efficiently. Some people want the shelves to be stocked with the stuff that they want when they want it. And for them, that's a great customer experience. Some people are looking for help buying a gift for a 12-year-old niece when you're a 56-year-old man that has no daughters and has not a clue what a 12-year-old girl would actually want, but you've been the one tasked to go out and buy her a gift. So you are looking for a little bit more customer experience and a little bit more help than the average person in that particular case. So I think that salespeople and customer experience people and marketing people, whatever, everybody within the organization needs to realize when, how, and where does this person need help, and how can I elevate my customer experience to match the needs of that individual.
Very well said, Mr. Ben. Let's talk about the survey and industrial complex. We have a buried
Mhm.
customers under the mountain of how did we do today surveys. So, how we confuse the measurement of experience with the improvement of experience.
I think you need to sit there and say, why would this person, first of all, want to fill out my survey? People fill out surveys for two different reasons. One, they're extremely angry, or one or two, they had incredible experience, and they're the type of people that want to share the how wonderful that experience was. 95% of the people out there really have no desire to fill out your survey. And the more complex your survey is, and the longer your survey is, and the more questions that your survey has, the bigger and the abandonment level is. I can't tell you how many surveys that I've started with intention I've abandoned because people have asked me too many questions and asked me things that are absolutely in my mind are irrelevant, but they need to ask one more question or two more questions. The other problem with surveys is it's Did you get bad service, good service, or great service? Well, it's binary. You're creating a binary opportunity. In AI world that we are today, let people leave comments. The comments are far more important than the good, better, best. It enables you to have a far more um, granular idea of why somebody's filling out the survey, what was good for them, what was bad for them, what was challenging for them, and enable AI systems to be able to gather that information, assemble that information, and make semblance of that information to be able to make better decisions. We have the ability to make better surveys. We have the ability to give our clients impetus to sign the survey. Give them a 5% discount. Give them the ability to get put their name in for a prize. Give them a reason why they should be able to want to fill out the survey, and a lot more people will. And I think that we need to give people impetus to fill out surveys, and not just assume people are going to do it because it's good for us.
And very well said. Mr. Ban, let's talk about the vanity versus diagnosis. A 95%
Mhm.
satisfaction score feels good, but if you don't know why the 5% left, the 95% is dangerous illusion. What metric are you currently reporting to the board that you know is misleading?
I let's pick on NPS scores because people either love NPS or they hate NPS. A number of years ago, I went and got what was it? I got new brakes at a dealership, and the service was horrendous. They took me late. I had an appointment. They took me late. Um, there was not a car available for me when they I was promised a car. They took me by some shuttle to a mall. I asked them to pick me up at a certain time. They were not there to pick me up at a certain time. When I finally got back to the dealership, the car wasn't ready, and when it was finally ready, it wasn't washed. It took a 4.5 hours to do something that I was promised was going to take an hour and a half. It was a waste of my day. I was dissatisfied. Yeah, I got a cheap price, but I got an email the next day wanting to do an MPS score, and I went to town, and I detailed exactly what the problem was and how the problem. And I got a phone call from their customer service manager begging me to redo the MPS score because it was going to negatively affect his bonus. And that was the justification that he used, is that it was going to negatively affect the bonus of him and his department based on my MPS score because it was dragging down the score averages. And I went, really? That's your problem. It wasn't a learning experience. It wasn't how can we improve. It wasn't what can we do to make things better. It was how can you help us get our score up so we can get our bonuses. And there's a lot of organizations just like that are using these net promoter scores, customer experience surveys, whatever survey system you want, as you said, for ego and for vanity, instead of using them as a learning experience. And I think, you know, leadership should be looking at the 5% and not the 95%. Why are we losing people on the back end? What is causing us not to get 100%, and using it to sit there, not to fire and not to, use the carrot and the stick, but to sit there and say, okay, how can we learn from this? How can we be better? Who can I actually get on a phone call with that's a customer and hear from them directly of what their challenges were, and what can we do to make things a better system? They People that give you a bad score are giving you a gift. As I said, 95% of people will either never fill out the survey, or worse, they're never going to fill out the survey, they're going to leave, and they're never going to come back. And I think that we need to really be thankful for those 5% or 8% or 10% or whatever it is that give us a challenging score, and find out from them and learn how can we be better? How can we elevate our customer experience in order to do that, instead of just being worried about our bonus structure.
Mr. Ben, the employee trade off. A common lie is our employees and our customers come first. But when a customer is abusive, demanding, and unreasonable, do you protect the employee's dignity or the customer's convenience, whose experience actually matters in the moment?
I'll tell you a story. This is going back 25 years ago. I had literally just come back from this customer. Literally had just come back to the customer, but I had been talking to a completely different department. And I came back, and one of the girls in my office was sitting there crying at her desk. And I said, "What's wrong?" She said, "Such and such customer just yelled at me for 20 minutes." I said, "Excuse me?" She said, "Yep, I got yelled at for absolute 20 minutes." I said, "Okay." He says, "What did we do?" I got the full story of the information, and I realized, yes, absolutely, we had messed up, but this customer had absolutely no right as a CEO to yell at a member of my staff. If they had a problem, their job is to yell at me. I walked out of the office, got into my car, drove back to their office, and fired them as a client because they were unwilling to see that they were part of the problem as and hopefully part of the solution. They said we can yell at whoever we want whenever we want. And I said, "Fine. You can go work with somebody else." My people are sacred and sacrament. If they make a mistake, we learn from it, but I protect them. And it's the job. If a customer's mad, they can yell at me. I got big, broad shoulders. I got no problem being yelled at. I have no problem fixing a problem. I have no problem taking responsibility when that is. But these people work for me, and ultimately, it's my responsibility to make sure. Yes, the employee and I will have a conversation. If that employee did something that was detrimental, if that employee did something that was you know way off base, if it was done with malice and miscontent or whatever, there is an opportunity that that employee may no longer work for us. Absolutely. But the thing is, it is not the responsibility of the CEO of a company to yell at my employee. Their job is to bring up those concerns with me. That's the chain of command.
Very well said, Mr. Ben, and you need an applause for that. And before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcast, people. My other podcast, because my abstract essay is already in fifth season, abstract poetry in third season, and book 101 review in fifth season too, a comedy 101 fourth season, and food 101 in sixth season as well, geography 101 love letters, movie 101 review, music 101 of fifth season, science 101, sex 101 fourth season, spiritual awakening, trivia 101, law 101, mental health 101, motivation 101, entrepreneurship 101, of course, my Bible verses 101 on my baby podcast. Please listen to them wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Ben, customers say they want personalized experiences, but they also
Yes.
want privacy. They want to know them, but they don't want to be watched. How do you navigate that contradiction between intimacy and surveillance?
I think it's how we market based on the information it is. You can market in a creepy way, and you could
Mm-hmm.
market in a way that adds value. We have enormous amounts of information on our customers. Based on technology, we can sit there and get to know our customers on a granular level. No question about it. The question is, how much of that information do we use? And how much of that information do we just put in a corner somewhere and forget about because that's going too far? And I think that we as organizations need to have systems, processes, procedures to understand how we communicate with our customers in ways that don't feel creepy, that don't feel big brotherish, and don't feel that we are on top of them at any given point in time. I have literally gotten a clicked on a thing, left my email address, left my phone number within the system, and within 2 minutes had somebody call me. To me, that's creepy. I think that we need to sit there and realize that we need to be responsive, but we can't be in a position where we think that we are just sitting there waiting to jump the gun.
Well, Mr. Ben, very well said. And can you please invite our listeners to support your business, your advocacy, or whatever projects that you're doing right now?
Absolutely. People can find out more about me and how I can help them at imbenbaker.com. That's imbenbaker.com. If you go there, you can find my LinkedIn profile. You can find out how to get in touch with me. And there's a whole bunch of publications and ebooks that you can download for free with absolutely no paywall. So come find me at imbenbaker.com.
Yes, I hope, Mr. Ben, you will be my regular guest on Entrepreneurship 101. And let's talk about things under the sun. Let's empower people love the world through your knowledge and wisdom. So, people, let's support Mr. Ben Baker, because if you support him, for sure, more and more empowering advocacy like this to rise. So, Mr. Ben, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Daniel.
Welcome, people. See you soon.